Hello, I have Selena here with me for a fruit lesson. Now, we've talked a lot about succulent fruits and dry fruits, and we've talked about the flower parts that still remain on the fruit. And we've even talked about the parts of the fruit, the epicarp, mesocarp, and endocarp. And today I want to talk to you about another way that we classify fruits. Now, this is classifying succulent fruits or looking at types of succulent fruits according to their parts. So remember your epicarp is the skin and the mesocarp is like the meat and the endocarp is the hard, well, we say it's the hard inside on our example so far. But today you're going to find out that not all of them are soft and not all of them are hard when we think they should be. And we're going to look at classifications of fruits that might even surprise you. This is great trivia when you're sitting down to dinner with your family and your parents are like, eat your vegetables, and you can say, that's a fruit. And then you can talk to them about that. Okay, so I'm going to switch our view here so you can see. And I have some fruits in front of you that maybe you've been told are vegetables all of your life, but you know from your Montessori lessons that these are fruits. And so we'll just go around and identify them so you can see. I have some olives, just some black olives. They're canned olives that are already pitted, so you'll have to bear with me. We thought we had a drupe, and then I learned something new today. So we're going to talk more about that. And then we have a tomato fresh from our garden. This is a beefsteak variety. And this is a zucchini, also fresh from our garden. We're excited to make maybe some zucchini bread later with. And here we just have a green Granny Smith apple. We really like these to dip in caramel. It's one of our favorite treats to have. So we're going to be talking about these specific fruits today, but with what you learned today, you can extend on to other fruits that you're eating. Okay, we're going to start with the olives. So I'm going to set those out of our way. So here are olives, and I want to talk about the parts of them. I'm going to cut into one of these, and it'll be hard to see because it's black and it's tiny and you're on a screen, but you might be able to see. So I don't know which camera might be better. You can kind of see there. So the outside skin layer, epicarp, is soft, the outside of an olive, and if you've tried olives before. So it has a succulent epicarp, the outer layer, and then the mesocarp is also juicy. You can see it here. It's almost a little bit tan. It's black and it's a little bit tan inside there. So that's the juicy mesocarp. With an olive, we eat both the epicarp layer and the mesocarp layer. And what's been removed from here is the pit or the endocarp. It's hard. If you get olives that are not pitted, be careful. You could break your teeth. It's kind of like eating cherries, fresh cherries. So this has a special name. This is called a drupe. It's a funny name. It is a funny name. Drupe, D-R-U-P-E. So a drupe has a succulent epicarp and mesocarp, and you eat both of them. And then it has a hard endocarp that you do not usually eat. And so these are drupes. You can think of some other drupes, things like cherries, peaches, plums, nectarines. Those are all drupes. You eat the skin, you eat the mesocarp, you do not eat the endocarp. So drupe. Okay, now we're going to talk about my friend, the tomato. Now, this one might be juicy, really juicy, and leave a mess on our cutting board. So we'll be careful with this one. So this is a tomato. And when we think about a tomato, its skin is soft. I wouldn't call it juicy. Its skin is soft though. So it has a soft epicarp. And then it has a juicy or succulent mesocarp. And then the center of it is soft. The endocarp is soft. And the seeds aren't in the endocarp, they surround the endocarp. I'm going to show you what that means. I'm going to do it over here in case it leaves a big wet spot. Okay, so you can see right here, this is this, I'm going to turn it back this way so you can see. Okay, the epicarp, the skin is soft but not juicy, and then this part right around here is the mesocarp, and it is juicy. And this center right here where the stem extends down, this is the endocarp, and it's soft as well, but it's not as juicy. Like when you're eating it, you can tell when you get to that center piece. And the seeds surround the endocarp. The seeds are not in the endocarp, they're around the endocarp. So a fruit like this, like a tomato, where it has soft epicarp, juicy mesocarp, and soft endocarp with seeds around the endocarp, this is called a berry.
A tomato is a berry.
A tomato is a berry, which that might blow your mind that a tomato is a berry, because we often think of berries as berries. But the botanical definition of a berry is a soft epicarp and endocarp, a juicy succulent mesocarp with seeds surrounding the endocarp. Okay, so I'm going to set this guy here. I can't set it off the cutting board though, because it is very, very succulent. But we will set its tag out of the way so we're not confused. Okay, now we're going to look at another one. This is the one that we said we are looking forward to making some zucchini bread. And let me see. I'm going to set our tomato out because I worry that it's going to get distracting with our other discussion. Okay, so this is a zucchini, and if we hadn't just made pickles, I could have brought a cucumber also. And the other types of fruits that are in this classification are squash and pumpkins. And so I want to talk about these guys. These type of fruits have an epicarp that is bound very, very tightly to the mesocarp, making a rind. So like this thick skin that's very tough. It's very tough to scratch at, and it's very tough when you cut through it. And you also maybe have had that where
like a melon.
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Now we have to think about melons. We're not going to get off topic though. So this one has a hard rind. I'm thinking so because it's like a squash and a pumpkin. We'll come back to that. So with this one, the soft center that you eat that has the seeds in it is the endocarp. So other fruits like the olive, we don't eat the endocarp because it's the pit. But this fruit, we do eat the endocarp because it's the center. Let's see. Oh, I didn't get a piece with the seed. Because it's a zucchini and not a cucumber, it's a little, the seeds are
like to hide.
They're just not as visible. Here we go. We're getting into them now. Okay, so there's a good view of it. Here's some, you can start to see them in these ones here. So in this zucchini, you can see the epicarp and the mesocarp are fine. This tightly right here, this dark green and the medium green is the mesocarp and epicarp, and then all of this lighter color, this white or light green, is the endocarp. And the endocarp has the seeds within it. So this type of fruit is called a pepo.
It's also a funny word.
It is also a funny word. Pepos are a fruit that has a hard rind made up of tightly joined together epicarp and mesocarp and has a juicy endocarp. So this is our pepo. It's so funny. It is so juicy. Let's see if I can show you.
It's like droplets.
Do you see these droplets of like juice? I don't know how to make it zoom in for you. Oh, you might be able to see them, right? Like right in there, that reflection. It is, the succulent fruit is losing its succulentness there. You can kind of see it on that screen. See that? The juice is seeping out between the mesocarp rind, part of the rind, and the endocarp. It's weird. It's really cool. Okay, we're gonna set our pepo aside for a moment. Pepos, so
Let's start dripping here too.
maybe you want to do that research and find out are melons pepos. It seems like maybe they would be. Okay, now remember we had our Granny Smith apple that tastes delicious with caramel. Here is our Granny Smith apple. So apples are another type of succulent fruit, and this one is very interesting because remember we talked about fruit is a swollen ovary of the plant. It's the part that swells up to protect the seed. And so there's something special about an apple. And you notice we didn't talk about an apple when we looked at the parts of a fruit because the core of the apple is the ovary. The ovary is the core of the apple. So another part of the flower makes up the part that we eat. The fruit of the apple is actually the core of the apple. We're not eating technically the fruit of the apple when we eat the apple. I'm going to cut this open. Okay, so here you can see, there you go. You can see the core of the apple is right here. This line right there. That is the fruit. That's the fruit. So you can kind of see it's like in shadow. I'm trying to get the right lighting for you. You can kind of see it. It has slightly different texture, this area right here. This right here is the fruit. I want you to find out about the rest part of the apple. Okay, so this part on the outside, I'll point with the tip of the knife because it's pointy. This part right here, that line is the epicarp. That line that you see is the epicarp. And this part here where the seeds are is the mesocarp. And the center part right here, the really hard part to chew, that is the endocarp. So these types of fruits that are where the core has the seeds in it, but the core itself is the ripened ovary, the epicarp, mesocarp, and endocarp are all within the core, are called pomes. Not like poem, like I'm a poet, but pome. Pome. Now, I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is going to work, so hang on a second. I was wondering if sometimes if you cut your apple the other direction, you get a different view. So I'm just going to try to cut it this way. I did cut the seed in half.
It's like a little star.
So when you look at it this way, sorry, I cut it in half the other way too. This center piece right here, the hard part that holds the seeds is the endocarp. So it's hard for me to pop those out of there, but these the star is the endocarp, and the meaty part around the star is the mesocarp. And then everything within these little dots, you see these little polka dots that go around it? Right, there's one and there's one. My finger's shadowing them. This line of dots is the outside, the epicarp. So it's kind of hard to see in both ways. But the core of the fruit is the ovary. You are not actually eating the fruit, the botanical fruit of the apple, unless you eat the whole thing. I do know people that eat the whole thing. So anyway, that was our poem. Now you're probably thinking, whoa, Miss Chris, you totally just like blew my mind, because not only did I not know a tomato was a berry, but I didn't know that cucumbers and zucchinis and squashes and pumpkins were peppos, and I ate the endocarp. I have something else for you.
Even more surprising than the fact that a tomato is a berry.
So I'm going to set those out of our way and move some of our apple seeds out of the way this way. Okay. When we were looking for a drupe, I was like, I need a drupe, I need a drupe. I know what a drupe is. Olives were not what I went and got. I went and grabbed the avocado, because the avocado seems like it should be a drupe. To me, it seems like it's a drupe. But if you remember, a drupe has a succulent epicarp, succulent skin. An avocado skin is not succulent, so it's not a drupe. So I'm going to set it back aside, and I'm going to tell you in a moment what's special about that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't have any cherries or peaches or nectarines. We have no drupe. And then I thought, oh, olives are drupes. So we opened up a can of olives. And so that's the one drupe we have in our house, is an olive. Okay, drupes. But hold on, Selena's reminding me I was going to move it and then I would have to bring it back. This was the only true drupe. That is a fruit that has a juicy epicarp skin and mesocarp flesh with a hard center and endocarp. But in our research to see what qualifies as a drupe, what could we possibly have that's a drupe, we came across a special classification of drupes, which I didn't know, and we had these on hand. Raspberries. Now, raspberries themselves are not drupes, but if you've ever looked at the tiny little segments of a raspberry, every single one of those has a succulent skin and a succulent flesh with a hard endocarp inside. So a raspberry and even a blackberry are called druplets. Every segment inside the raspberry is a druplet. Let's see if I can you see those little drupes in there? Do you see those hard endocarps right inside there?
I never noticed the tiny
little endocarps. There they are. Every segment, every piece of a raspberry is a druplet. It's a druplet. I learned something new today. I learned two things. I learned that an avocado wasn't a drupe, and I learned that a raspberry is made up of a lot of drupes. In the classroom, we don't eat science, but when you're doing this at home, you can. When we do it in the classroom, all of us touch them and look at them, and our hands are all dirty. But when you're at home and it's just you touching them, you can eat them. So raspberries are druplets. Okay, so I totally blew your mind with the druplets, and I told you that an avocado wasn't a druplet. I'm going to tell you drupe. It's also not a druplet. Now I'm going to talk to you more about berries, because we were already surprised by our tomato berry, and so that was interesting. So remember, the definition is a soft skin and a succulent mesocarp middle and a soft endocarp surrounded by seeds. Okay, so here this is. There is a special classification of berries. There's another word, I can't remember it off the top of my head. There's another classification for something with a soft epicarp and endocarp, succulent mesocarp, so with the seeds right here. Yes, you see it. It's an orange. An orange is a berry. Let's cut this berry open. Do you see how similar to the tomato it is? You can't see any seeds in that one. That's magic, because usually they're full of seeds. This has a soft but not juicy epicarp, a succulent juicy mesocarp, and a soft endocarp. An orange is a berry.
And they have seeds.
And there's seeds in there when there's seeds, but this was a magic seedless one that I cannot wait to eat. Okay, and I have one more interesting fact for you, and I don't think I'm going to be able to show it as beautifully as these other examples have been, but in our research about drupes, in our surprise about my favorite avocado not being a drupe, is we found out that botanically an avocado is considered a berry. You heard me? You heard me right? An avocado is a berry. It's going to be hard to show that because this is a much larger knife than I usually use to cut my avocado. It's scary. I cut it really off-centered. So here is our soft epicarp and our juicy mesocarp. And we often think of the pit of the avocado as the endocarp, but it's not. The endocarp is inside the pit, and it is soft. If we were to soak this in water and split this hard shell, inside there is soft. So we can't really cut that pit open. Maybe I can find a picture of a cut open avocado pit. An avocado is a berry. Ta-da! That was my magic trick for the day. If you're at home and you need to pause to like go tell your friend, you can do that. Because even though I wrote this lesson, even though I went to training, even though I grow most of these in the garden, I learned something new today. I learned about drupes and druplets. I learned about berries, and I learned about not berries. I learned about peppos. peppos and how their rind is made up of the mesocarp, that you're not eating the mesocarp, you're eating the endocarp.
There's so many droplets on
Yeah,
it
there are
now.
lots of succulent juice coming out of this guy. And I looked at an apple many different ways to look at the star endocarp and the epicarp. It's starting to brown, so now you can kind of see that epicarp, and that we don't eat the fruit, or generally I don't. Usually I take the core out when I eat my apples, so that the fruit of the apple isn't what we eat. I will put the words for you so that you can see them. Droop. I'll put our berries up here in the corner.
Too many berries.
There's a lot of berries. I'm going to move this guy out of the way. The berries are over here. Put the droop sign next to it so you can see the droops. And here is our pepo. And our palm. Oh, yeah, you can't see that down there.
Raspberries shouldn't be called raspberries because they're droops.
Ras droops. We have a new name. Apples are the poem. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a screen capture of this and post it at the end of the video. You can also pause and write down those names. For your follow-up, you can classify the fruits that you're being served at home at your mealtime. You can tell the story of one of these or all of these to a family member if you would like to. I would like you to share with me in a way you choose, or maybe I'll tell you in the assignment part. I want you to tell me what was most surprising, or maybe you already knew all this. I'd like you to tell me how you already knew. And bonus, what part of the apple do we eat? If it's not the fruit, what is it we eat?
I don't know.
Okay.
Someone has to tell us.
Please tell us. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. I know it was a lot, but I hope it was fun, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.